We live in a time fixated on exposure, a culture where every move is shared, every achievement publicized, and every ambition broadcast. The dominant message is clear: be visible, showcase your victories, declare your goals, display your power. Visibility is equated with influence. But what if this belief is misguided? What if loudly declaring your strength is the quickest way to undermine it? Niccolo Machiavelli, often seen as coldly cunning, wasn't just a manipulator of power, he was its silent analyst. And one insight echoed throughout his writings: those who reveal too much too early invite attack. The peacock may stun with its beauty, but it's also the easiest to catch. The truly powerful rarely proclaim their power. They let it be felt, often when it's too late to counter. In Machiavelli's Florence, silence was a shield. Power wasn't displayed openly. It was concealed like a hidden blade. The city's alleys held the bones of men who boasted too soon. Leaders collapsed because they couldn't resist displaying dominance. Machiavelli observed and concluded, power paraded is power endangered. The most formidable figure in any room is rarely the noisiest. He is the observer, patient, calculating, while others reveal themselves out of a hunger to be noticed. Yet in today's world, we do the reverse. We declare our intentions online before we've even started. We share wins in real time. We unveil emotions, tactics, relationships, all under the banner of being real. But what modernity calls authenticity, Machiavelli would call tactical failure. In both politics and life, loudness creates patterns, and patterns invite manipulation. As Machiavelli warned, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you truly are. This wasn't guidance, it was caution. When you display too much, people form opinions, and opinions turn into attacks. The more visible you are, the easier you are to target, define, or dismantle. In the realm of influence, ambiguity isn't a weakness, it's a shield. Picture the loud startup founder announcing their moves before delivering results. Watch competitors imitate or sabotage them. Consider the person who monopolizes every meeting. Their volume may seem like strength, but their credibility quietly slips away. Now picture the one who listens more than they speak, but whose actions carry precision. Others adjust to them, not because they are loud, but because they are unignorable. Why? Because speech is a form of commitment, and committing prematurely narrows your options. Once you speak, you've declared your stance. Once you reveal, you've shown your cards. From that point, others begin to plan their response. Machiavelli grasped that power grows not by being admired, but by being overlooked until it's too late. The fox isn't feared for its bragging, but for its silence. The lion doesn't conquer through endless roaring, but through quiet dominance. Yet modern society confuses attention with authority. We're conditioned to think visibility equals leadership, that noise means influence, that presence requires performance. But Machiavelli's timeless insight contradicts this. The more you reveal, the more you are obligated. Publicity creates expectation, and when those expectations go unmet, they linger. Visibility is a credit you must keep repaying. Silence, by contrast, buys you freedom. Freedom to act without explanation, to shift without scrutiny. This isn't just theory, it's human behavior. People do not fear what is familiar, they fear what is unclear. If your moves are always transparent, you become predictable. If your thoughts are always shared, you become manageable. But when you remain measured, observant, and discreet, others are left guessing. And in their guessing, they expose far more than you ever do. If Niccolo Machiavelli could witness today's culture of constant self-display, he wouldn't be shocked by the ambition. He'd be dismayed by how easily it's destroyed by premature exposure. He once said, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." This wasn't an endorsement of dishonesty, but a sober reflection on how public statements become liabilities. The moment you declare something, you bind yourself to it. You're no longer free to shift, adapt, or rethink without seeming inconsistent. Your words become a trap, not because they were wrong, but because they were made too soon. Silence, on the other hand, grants freedom, the freedom to evolve without explanation. Those who understand power understand restraint. Consider two warriors. One enters the arena with boastful shouts, waving his sword high, drinking in the cheers. The other arrives wordless, eyes locked on his foe, his presence like a blade drawn quietly. Who strikes more fear? It is not the loud who intimidate us. It's the unknowable. That's the principle we've forgotten. Flaunting wealth, showing off your body, parading your relationship or ambitions may feel like winning, but it's an illusion. You're not gaining power. You're offering your opponents a blueprint. You become a target for envy, sabotage, and resistance. Worse, you start performing for approval. You become addicted to being noticed. Machiavelli warned that it is much safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. And genuine fear, the kind that commands respect, doesn't arise from shouting. It grows from silence, distance, mystery. The craving to be admired is a quiet poison. Once your self-image depends on others' reactions, you surrender control. You begin shaping your actions around applause, chasing appearance over outcome. And in doing so, your power dissolves. So what's the wiser path? Stay unreadable. Move in quiet precision. Don't announce your intentions, fulfill them. Speak only when your words carry undeniable weight. Let your actions be your announcement. This is not fear, it's discipline. It's the discipline to protect your narrative, to limit what your rivals understand, to remain in control. Machiavelli didn't urge concealment out of cowardice. He urged it as a calculated move. Power doesn't stem from being seen. It stems from being felt, subtly, firmly, unshakably. So next time you feel compelled to share your plans, to validate your worth, to display your edge, stop. Ask, who gains from this revelation? Is it you or the people now watching and plotting? Never forget, the greatest forces in the universe, gravity, time, pressure, operate in silence. They reshape landscapes without needing attention. Be like them. Still, precise, hidden. Because when a man reveals his plan before he moves, he gives his enemies time to react. He becomes legible. He becomes trackable. And once you're trackable, you're no longer dangerous. You're deciphered. You're controlled. Machiavelli grasped a truth that goes beyond politics. It reaches into psychology, into the core of influence itself. His writings weren't just about ruling cities, they were manuals for mastering the mind, especially your own. He recognized that real power doesn't start with conquering others, it starts with discipline. And the most potent form of discipline? The ability to hold back. Why do people feel the urge to parade their achievements, to speak endlessly about their plans? It's not strength. It's a craving for certainty, for validation, for proof of significance. But the Machiavellian mind doesn't crave praise. It craves advantage. And nothing delivers advantage like purposeful silence. Not silence born of fear or passivity, but silence wielded as a weapon, sharp, controlled, and unpredictable. You'll notice a pattern among those who wield lasting influence. The higher they climb, the quieter they become. Their words are fewer, but each one lands with force. When they finally speak, the room listens, not just for what's said, but for what remains unspoken. The novice explains everything. The master reveals little. He lets presence, not explanation, carry the weight. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said, "It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles." True power doesn't stem from your role. It radiates from your restraint. And that restraint goes far beyond words. It includes your reactions, your emotions, your very presence. Showy people are easy to manipulate. They take the bait, they defend themselves, they fall into traps because they can't stay silent. But the Machiavellian figure doesn't chase applause. He doesn't need to win arguments. He plays for influence, not attention. Think about the real movers, the people who shift outcomes, shape rooms, steer direction. Are they the loudest, or are they the ones whose stillness unsettles the room? That's the essence of strategic silence. When you make noise, you become traceable. When you say little, others fill the silence with imagination. And imagination exaggerates. It amplifies. You become more than real. You become mythic. This is why rulers of old were rarely seen outside ceremony, because presence diluted mystique. When you're accessible, you're ordinary. When you're elusive, you're formidable. Yet, in our world, this principle is ignored daily. People volunteer their insecurities just for clicks. We celebrate overexposure. We confuse transparency with strength and see privacy as suspicious. The modern man, eager to be seen, often sacrifices the very power he seeks. He doesn't understand the power of being enigmatic. Machiavelli put it plainly. Men judge more by what they see than by what they touch. Perception outweighs substance. So if you display too much, your struggles, your doubts, your full process, you cheapen your success. The illusion disappears. The magician who shows the trick kills the magic. And the achiever who narrates his journey undermines the very impact of the result. Each word used to justify drains strength from what's been done. Each shared detail gives enemies material to analyze and attack. Each boast pulls focus from the outcome to the ego behind it. The disciplined operator doesn't proclaim his wins. He accumulates them quietly. He allows others to make sense of his success, to build their own interpretations. And in that ambiguity, respect grows. Not through force, but through uncertainty. And in respect born from mystery lies deep, unspoken control. This isn't about hiding forever. It's about choosing when and how to be seen. When you step into the spotlight, it should feel intentional, not habitual. Calculated, not compulsive. Even the lion doesn't roar without cause. He observes. He waits. And when the sound finally comes, it silences the wild, not because it's loud, but because it's rare and meaningful. The danger of constant display isn't just strategic, it's transformative. Slowly, without noticing, you stop acting with intention and start performing for reaction. You shift from seeking results to chasing approval. You dress not for purpose, but for applause. And over time, you erode the very essence that once made you formidable. You become a replica of yourself, a watered-down version crafted to meet expectations rather than to dominate them. This is the trap of the performer. Once his identity depends on being seen, he becomes dependent on his viewers. He needs their approval to feel whole. Machiavelli, ever the realist, would see this clearly. He would advise, don't descend to the level of the crowd, rise above them. Let them chatter, let them guess, but never give them clarity. For once you are fully known, you are no longer revered. You are dissected, ranked, and eventually dismissed. Mystery is not an accessory to power. It is its armor. Strip away the mystique, and the edge dulls. So how does one maintain that mystique? By discarding the compulsion to prove, by replacing self-promotion with self-mastery, You begin to act without justifying. You succeed without seeking applause. You strip away explanation and leave only intention. And the absence of noise becomes its own signal. People notice not what you say, but what you withhold. And in that absence, they lean in. They wonder. They respect. Machiavelli understood this deeply. His philosophy was not concerned with volume. It was obsessed with control. In an age where everyone shouts, the one who says nothing owns the room. The strongest figure is not the one who demands your gaze, but the one who never needs it. And in a society where noise is currency, silence becomes priceless. In the arena of influence, every boast, every confession, every poorly timed word is a form of surrender. It reveals something: fear, need, weakness. Machiavelli watched entire regimes fall not from opposition, but from self-inflicted exposure. They mistook showmanship for persuasion. They confused volume for power. But they were undone by quieter minds. Those who listened more, spoke less, and struck only when the advantage was absolute. To grasp this, you must abandon the modern obsession with being fully understood. You think clarity builds connection. But in power, clarity invites attack. The moment someone can map you, they stop fearing you. They start strategizing against you. Machiavelli didn't write for those who want to be liked. He wrote for those who intend to endure. And to endure, you must become difficult to define, difficult to predict, difficult to reach. He wrote, "A prudent man should always follow in the path of the great and imitate those who have excelled." So who were the ones worth imitating? Those who wielded silence like a weapon. Caesar did not trumpet his intentions before crossing the Rubicon. Borgia never revealed his hand until his enemies were encircled. Even Machiavelli himself embedded his truest lessons in metaphor, implication, nuance, never in direct declarations. The world has always punished overexposure, but never more brutally than today. Now the surveillance isn't just external, it's voluntary, it's cultural. People hand over their own secrets. They document everything: victories, failures, frustrations, in real time. They believe transparency earns admiration. It doesn't. It earns scrutiny. It gives others the raw material to criticize, to compare, to undermine. The moment you expose something, you surrender the ability to control it. Machiavelli would warn you: build your fortress internally. Let your motives remain hidden. Let your aspirations remain silent. Conceal your framework. Let the world see only the finished structure, and only when it's too strong to oppose. Those who construct in silence construct with permanence. Why don't architects reveal their designs mid-draft? Why don't military commanders announce their tactics before the battle? Why don't sovereigns consult the crowd before they act? Because in every game of power, anticipation is worth more than visibility. The unknown creates pressure. The unsaid creates motion. A quiet room holds more tension than a loud one. A glance is often more commanding than a speech. The Machiavellian mind does not just manipulate people, it manages what people are allowed to know. That is not secrecy for secrecy's sake. It is power in its purest form: selective revelation, precise mystery, and the ruthless ability to keep your world yours. The average man cracks under pressure. He speaks to soothe his nerves, boasts to prove his worth, shouts to mark a win, and in doing so, he gives himself away. His emotions become a roadmap, his reactions a manual. But the dangerous man, the strategist, does not relieve the tension, he wields it. He knows silence is not passivity, it's precision, it's control. He doesn't speak to be heard. He speaks only when silence has delivered its full advantage. Quiet is not weakness, it is unreadability. And unreadability is power. Because when others cannot place you, they project. Their own insecurities fill the void. You become myth. You become mirror. They lose clarity while you gain leverage. History remembers men like this. Churchill didn't speak often, but when he did, the room stopped. Marcus Aurelius wrote in solitude, governing from inward calm, not external applause. Today's rarest leaders, the ones truly in control, don't need to speak often. They listen, they absorb, they wait, because the player never performs. He calculates. Machiavelli knew applause is bait. Charisma fades. Visibility becomes a liability. But a quiet, disciplined mind? That is unbreakable, because it's unreadable. And unreadable men can't be predicted or defeated. So ask yourself, what happens when you stop explaining? When you no longer audition for approval? When you build without announcement? You gain something rare, autonomy. Others begin to speculate, to fill in gaps, to circle you without landing a hit. While they talk, you move. While they show, you strike. This is how power scales, through motion, not noise, through mystique, not validation. Machiavelli's warning is clear. To dominate without opposition, discard the need to be seen. Let others crave the spotlight. Let them become addicted to performance. Let them burn. You remain in the shadows, not in fear, but in full command. Because true force does not broadcast. The wolf does not bark before it bites. The storm does not announce its coming. It simply arrives. That's power, unannounced, undeniable, unapologetic. The modern world is obsessed with exposure, oversharing dressed up as authenticity. Brands, influencers, entrepreneurs, even leaders, bleeding information for attention. But attention is not power. It's currency with no savings account. And every time you show off, you pay a price. Predictability, vulnerability, positioning. You show them where to aim. The Machiavellian mind sees this as suicide. Strategy dies the moment it is broadcast. When you speak your goal too early, you invite judgment. When you show your process, others copy it. When you seek praise, you become its prisoner. And when your plan becomes public before it's concrete, it loses all potency. That's not confidence. It's insecurity disguised as openness. The leader who over-explains loses authority. The one who withholds earns mystique. Every word spoken is a signal. Every signal can be countered. But silence? That disorients. And in disorientation, you gain time, space, control. This isn't about being passive. It's about weaponizing restraint. It's about choosing precision over presence. When you speak sparingly, your voice carries weight. When you move quietly, your path becomes unpredictable. The loud are easy to locate. The visible are easy to strike. But the man who says little, he becomes a question mark. And questions stall action. So ask again, why do you share? Why do you show? Is it for power or for comfort? Because the man who needs to be seen will always be enslaved by the gaze of others. But the one who watches, calculates, and withholds, that man is untouchable. His silence makes others speak. His stillness makes others move. His control is so complete, it appears effortless. This is the rarest kind of power. Not because it is hard to find, but because it is hard to practice. It demands discipline. It demands the ability to hold tension, to tolerate doubt, to need nothing from the crowd. The predictable man is managed. The unknown man is feared. Fear always begins in uncertainty. And silence is the architect of uncertainty. Machiavelli taught that the crowd should never know your full mind. Give them results, not reasons. Appear when it suits you. Disappear when it doesn't. Speak rarely. Move sharply. Make presence count, not constant. Because mystique is not about hiding. It's about editing. It's about revealing only what furthers your position and keeping everything else under lock. That's how value is maintained. That's how power is preserved. In every battlefield of influence, noise is a liability. Performance is a liability. Emotion is suicide. And the man who demands to be seen becomes the easiest to strike. The true Machiavellian doesn't aim for recognition. He aims for control. He doesn't chase followers. He cultivates leverage. He doesn't perform. He maneuvers. And when he moves, it's already too late for others to respond. So ask yourself, do you want to be noticed or do you want to be unassailable? Because fame is fleeting, but obscurity, strategic obscurity, is a fortress. The loud man may win a room, but the silent man shapes nations. He doesn't tweet his moves. He doesn't preview his plays. He moves, quietly, precisely, irreversibly. You don't need applause. You need advantage. And advantage doesn't come from being admired. It comes from being underestimated, from being feared, from being doubted, until it's too late. Move like a ghost. Build like a king. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them talk. But never let them see you coming. That's the difference between a man who performs and a man who rules.